It's time now for the award-winning #1 local talk show in Northeast Pennsylvania, The Sam Lesante Show. Now here's your host, Sam Lesante.
Well, folks, 'tis the season. November 6th is a very important day, probably for the rest of our lives. It's going to be a day that we're going to have to go out and vote. We're going to start a series, folks, of different shows and trying to inform you of facts and then think about some things before you go to vote November 6th. This show is going to be graphic to a degree. We're going to show you some things. It's a pro-life show. I do welcome and invite anyone who has opposing viewpoints. I will give them equal amount of time. I've said this for a number of years. So if we have Planned Parenthood, pro-choice, anybody who wants to come on and tell us their point, more than happy to give you equal time. Today I'm joined by Don Galade, who is one of the producers of The Voice of John. We're going to see a trailer on that. And my very good friend, Dr. Polidora. And we're going to show you different things and teach you a little bit about what's going on or inform you what's going on and then make some value decisions. Gentlemen, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having us.
Now, what we're going to see right now, I want to run this trailer of the movie that your documentary you're doing. Just give us a briefing of what we're going to look at.
Okay. We started off making a documentary on the pro-life movement. Been all over the country in the last 8 months. About 9 different states, end to end. And when you think you know everything in this movement, then you're shocked daily. We learn stuff that's just amazing. And what I found was that in making a movie about pro-life, we ended up making a movie about Christ.
Okay. Andy, why don't you run this trailer for us, please?
And then I went into what was called the dirty utility room to make sure it had been cleaned up from the shift before. And I heard a sound that's imprinted into my heart. And it was just like a little purring sound. And I turned the light on, and there on this dirty utility counter was a child laying there.
And he said that it had been born alive and that the nurse had to do something.
Our clinics were caught by the CBS affiliate in Dallas, Texas at that time, attempting to do abortions on women who were not pregnant.
And that's what it really hit home for me, that this was a life growing inside of me. And when they showed me just a little flicker on the screen and they said, that's your baby, and that's your baby's heartbeat.
When you teach a generation that at the very beginning of life, life is insignificant, then as they get older, they could very possibly have the mentality that no life is significant. And thus crime goes up and the respect for the elderly goes down.
How can we believe in that solidarity when it comes to rescuing people from natural disasters or poverty or disease and somehow have a blind spot when it comes to the children in the womb?
Obamacare is going to enshrine abortion and rationing of health care in our society for generations to come if it is not stopped. This is the most dangerous threat to human life that this country has ever seen.
The founder of Planned Parenthood, initially the Birth Control League that became Planned Parenthood, Margaret Sanger, was a colleague and an associate of people who were closely connected to Adolf Hitler.
See, for many of these people, they know that they're killing a human being, but we're just animals, and we have a right to do what we want to do, don't we? Don't we own our bodies? I mean, we're just here as a result of natural processes.
They say they want no God. They say they don't want the Bible to be the authority and the focal point, but what kind of world are we going to live in if we don't have those things?
But there is no right and wrong. That you can go out and abort, that you can go out and kill other people. There's so many problems with an evolutionary worldview that it actually causes major moral decay.
That we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, and are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. Among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
I knew I'd been involved in the murder of 35,000 babies. The death of one woman the maiming of 19 other women.
No matter what you've done in the past, it doesn't matter, because, you know, we're still here, and as long as we're here, He wants us happy.
The most important thing is to know that we have a God who loves us, who died and forgives us.
In the most controversial film of our time, one small voice will speak for millions. The voice of John.
There you have a trailer, folks, a documentary. I know some of you are going to, this may be upsetting to some of our viewers. All I could say is that it's such a pity in this country that we have to defend babies. We have to defend their lives. It's just a shame. I'm going to show you something, folks. This is a, and Dr. Polidora will address this. This is little feet. Okay, this is a 10-week-old baby. And I don't care whether you're Democrat, Republican, it doesn't make any difference to me. All I know is that this is a very serious issue. No respect for life. And Dr. Polidora, when we talk about no respect for life, we shake our heads and we say, oh my God, did you see this person shot 12 people, massacred, shootings in the streets, and people shooting people down. And we think, well, what is the respect for life if you don't have, if you're killing babies by the millions? I don't understand the logic here for some reason. Maybe you could shed some.
Well, since 1973, it's my understanding that almost a third of the babies conceived have been aborted. These are totally innocent people. They've committed no crime. And actually, you're talking about people that shoot people. They're given something called due process, which is something that is very sacred in our law and culture. These little beings, these that are in the womb, are not represented by anyone. Matter of fact, if we're not here to speak for them, no one's there to speak for them. They're denied something very, very basic, which is the right to be considered human beings, persons. This is something that's developed, I would say, since, let's say, the 60s especially. Matter of fact, in the late 1800s, the AMA specifically was against abortion. By the end of the 20th century, the AMA said that abortions could be done as long as medical procedures were followed properly and proper laws were obeyed. Okay, so we've seen a big change here. Essentially what we've seen the person of the baby taken away from them. If you look at the word person, it's an interesting person. It means face. And actually, if I can show it later on, partial birth abortion, one of the things that the abortionist does is he turns the baby's face away from him. And this is this dehumanizes the baby. This dehumanizes anyone. Matter of fact, if you look in warfare, the one thing that's done in propaganda is to dehumanize the enemy. Okay, so you're asked, how could this happen? It happens because people, maybe it has something to do with people becoming very self-centered in our society. Maybe it has to do with people rejecting God, Christ, and that sort of thing. And then you're left only with yourself and individualism.
How do you know the current administration, the Democrat Party, this is their platform, okay? The Democrat Party, here is the Democrat platform, folks. The Democratic Party strongly and unequivocally supports Roe versus Wade and a woman's right to make decisions regarding her pregnancy, including a safe and legal abortion regardless of the ability to pay. We oppose any and all efforts to weaken that right. Now, what happens is when you talk about women, and it seems that the scare tactics out there, it's women's health care, women get offended when you're trying to tell them how to take care of their health. And so what they're saying is that, you know, the woman has the opportunity to decide whether to kill that baby or not. Folks, I'm talking to Don Galade and Dr. Frank Polidora. We're going to show you what a partial birth abortion is, and we're going to also tell you that this is what some people still feel we should be doing, okay? Talk about insanity, folks? I don't know. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Sam Lesante Show, folks. We're seen on 24/7, ssptv.com. You can watch any of our shows all over the world. My guest today, Don Galade, the producer of The Voice of John, and Dr. Frank Polidora. We're talking about abortion. We're talking about pro-life, and it's for you to get educated. Please learn as much as you can. In the documentary, Don interviews somebody, but I want to show you something, folks. This is another picture. This is a picture of a 21-week doctor. This is 21 weeks, where the doctor is operating. See the little hand holding the doctor's finger. All right, now that's 21 weeks. According to some people, they feel they could still abort at that trimester. Now, here is the same boy, that little boy, today. 10 years old, 10 years later, and people turn their heads when they see, people could have aborted this, and if it was up to the Planned Parenthood and the President of the United States, who supports Planned Parenthood and feels that it's the women's right for them to do that, and he gets them riled up. You know, healthcare. They're not going to tell you to do it with your body, and this gets women upset, and they get concerned that someone's taking something away from me. Forget the fact that there's a God, who incidentally was booed 3 times in the convention, and I guess I'm picking on the Democrats. No, I'm picking on their platform. There are a lot of great Democrats who feel the way we feel. I'm one of them, We're in the first time, 26,000 words, Doctor. They didn't have God mentioned. And when they put him back in, the idea of restoring the name of God to the platform was booed, hooted, jeered by the delegates, 3 times where, they're booing God now, I mean, and when you talk about, I said, insanity, we want to know why the world is falling apart. You interviewed a person about health care, where women feel that you're telling them what to do, Don. And that's where people get upset about that.
We met with a woman named Carol Everett, who owned an abortion clinic. She is now pro-life. She is responsible personally for 35,000 babies. The death of a woman who had a botched abortion and maiming of 19 others. This woman specifically, and you'll see this in the film, which everybody needs to see, November 4th, it's going to be released nationwide. But in the film, she explains to us how her goal was to be a millionaire. And as she set up to be a millionaire, she could only do that by doing 1 abortion every 4 minutes. And she had a room set up where they would get the women prepped and keep them in the hallways. So there was 1 woman waiting at all times. The doctor would go in, do the procedure, race across the hall, and many times not change the gloves, and many times use the same instruments. The abortion clinics, we're not regulated. We saw what happened in Gosnell in Philly. They weren't regulated. She actually said you get better care at Earring Pagoda or at a vet than you would at an abortion clinic, number 1. So the fact that you're calling this healthcare, number 1, is ludicrous. It's not healthcare. The second of all, there are no charts. There were no medical history. The abortionist walked up to the desk at the end of the day, handed his receipts to the girl behind the counter, and he was paid in cash. I'm sure he included that on his 1099. But the point was, there's not even a medical chart. How can that be considered healthcare?
Doctor, when I say insanity, I even say to myself, why do we even have to do a show like this to save babies' lives? I mean, we're here telling people, consider your vote when you go to vote, because there is a person who says this is okay. I mean, it just blows my mind.
Well, the public's been fooled. There's the thing about lies, and people will believe the big lie rather than the small lie. First, this thing I talked about, this not being a person. The second, how horrific abortion is, If you look at abortions, the baby is either being poisoned, suffocated, or dismembered, Poisoned early in the pregnancy with the drugs that induce the uterus to slough and the baby to essentially starve and not have any oxygen. If you look at all the surgical procedures that are done, they involve in some way or another dismembering the baby. If it's early on, they call it a menstrual extraction, which is a nice. They like to use if you look at the people that perform abortions, they don't like to tell the truth and say what it is. But essentially, it's putting a suction tube into the uterus, and women have to remember that the cervix has to be artificially dilated in some fashion, either with instruments or with what are called laminaria, which are things that are made from seaweed that absorb water. And this, is something that potentially could give problems later on to a woman with carrying a child that she wants to carry. But the point is, later on that you have suction curettes, you have sharp, essentially suction tubes that go in there and scrape the baby aside. And later on, when the baby's too big to do that, they get forceps and rip them into small pieces. And babies, by the way, babies start to perceive pain, as far as I know from my reading, at like maybe 15 weeks, maybe 12 weeks. And actually, the pain system is primitive. Right now, when we feel pain, we don't feel it as much because there's inhibition of pain also. These early nervous systems, the baby doesn't have them. So they feel pain worse than we do. These little ones are being, how would you like to be ripped apart? And that's what, suffocated, ripped apart, poisoned, or if you have a saline abortion, burned, okay?
We have a baby in front of you who it's not a real baby, but we're going to show, Dr. Polidora, folks, is going to show you what a partial birth abortion is, okay? Now that's the baby. It's fully formed. And now, what does the doctor who, in God's name, how any doctor could do this when they swear to keep lives is amazing to me. This is what they do. Tell them exactly what happened.
All right, this is like a 21-week fetus, and the fetus just means, remember, fetus is not a noun, it's an adjectival noun. It's a fetal human being.
Yeah.
In any event, the baby's in the mother, the head may be down, the baby may be somewhere or another. So the mother has had these laminaria put in her cervix for anywhere up to 3 days to get her cervix wide enough, and then she's given anesthesia. And then usually with an ultrasound, the abortionist will find out where the baby is, and then he wants to turn the baby around so that the feet are now going to be exiting the mother. Why does he do this? So that he can pull the baby out, and then what he does is he gets a sharp instrument of some sort, and the baby's outside the mother except for perhaps the head like this, and he gets the sharp instrument, sticks it into the head, at the back of the head, and when this happens, the baby's arms may flail because of the pain, and then he gets a suction and puts that in and sucks the baby's brains out. And then he takes the baby out, and he has something that all abortionists want to have when they take the baby out. He has a dead baby. He doesn't want to have the dreaded live baby because then he's got all kind of problems. Now, somebody may say with this, wait a minute, this is outlawed because there was a law passed by the Congress in, I think it was 2003, and it was upheld by the Supreme Court in 2007. But what I'm saying to people is, yes, this is outlawed at this point, but there's a chance for it to come back. I think it was just after 2007 when the Supreme Court found for this, Barbara Boxer, who was senator, and 19 other senators, including then Senator Obama, Barack Obama, put forth a bill, a Freedom of Choice Act. And the only reason it didn't pass is that then President Bush said he would veto it, okay? Now, when our present president, Mr. Obama, was elected, one of the things on their agenda was bringing back this Freedom of Choice Act. And for whatever reason, it didn't come. But if he's reelected, one of my concerns is that the Freedom of Choice Act will somehow come back, if not through legislation, then through executive order in some fashion, and you may indeed see these kind of horrors occurring again.
This is an article from the Standard Speaker to attest what Dr. Polidora says. The article says, this is a Democrat declaration of support for partial birth abortion in the 8th and 9th month of pregnancy, should a woman so decide, with the rest of us forced to pay for that abortion. And if you tell me this is women's health care, and if you're telling me, folks, that we have gone to an extreme in this world that is unbelievable.
There's a gentleman by the name of Alan Parker, and I've had a great number of conversations with him so far. Alan Parker is Norma McCorvey's attorney. Norma McCorvey, as you know, is the Roe of Roe v. Wade. Norma McCorvey actually went to the Supreme Court subsequent 1973 and said, I lied. And they said, too bad. So she's been trying to get this actually reversed. But Alan Parker has a mission right now where one of the Supreme Court justices, which I can't mention on the air, but one of the Supreme Court justices said to Mr. Parker, prove to me the number of women have been hurt by abortion, as you say, and truly hurt, those that were truly lied to, because many, many were, many regret this after the fact. And he will recant his position on Roe v. Wade. So it's so crucial that we get this message out. And it's so crucial that people not only view this film, but also get this thing in every church, in every media outlet that will have it, so that we can get Mr. Parker's message out. We can literally, potentially, change Roe v. Wade.
Be back right after this, folks. My guest, Don Galade, Dr. Frank Polidora. Remember, we're only dealing with facts, folks. And let me ask you something. You got a sick mom, sick child. What do you ask? You say, well, how much money can I raise today? Or how much money can I make today? Or is your concern is, I'm really concerned about the health and welfare of my child who is sick, or my grandmother or grandfather who is sick. Now, if they're going to kill babies, folks, what about us seniors? When you're really, not really useful to society. Oh, can it happen? It's happening already. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Sam Lesante Show, folks. November 6th, a very important day for us to go out and vote. We just showed on this show with Dr. Polidora showed a partial birth abortion. This is a fact now, I'm telling you. I think, Doctor, when this was done, Michelle Obama sent a letter. What was in that letter?
Well, her husband was running for a senator, and she said that the law passed by Congress was unconstitutional and bad legislation. That was the law that would outlaw partial birth abortion.
So, when we're dealing with substance, Don, I know Democrats out there, and I happen to be a Democrat, a conservative Democrat. Wyatt, sometimes when I look at that platform, am I really supporting that? I'm not. It hurts me dearly. But we have these bottles, God's gift. What's the story with these?
To raise funds for this production, which there's a lot needed to release a movie nationwide, we would ask that churches in this viewing area and anybody who can pass this word along, basically we bring those to a church hands them out, take your spare change, throw it in there, we collect it. We've actually raised thousands of dollars in nickels and dimes to actually save these babies. Because if I may, 2 Chronicles says, if my people will humble themselves and pray and seek my voice and turn from their wicked ways, I will forgive their sin and heal their land.
Doctor, the question, when you start talking God, people after start getting nervous. Isn't that sad?
Well, actually, Sam, that's the crux of what we're doing.
Yeah.
This isn't about the abortion issue. This is about the fact that we've taken God out of society. Abortion is the symptom of what we've done.
The Democrats want to take it out of their platform. So here's what they say. Yeah, it's okay to say this, but what about all those kids who are starving out there? How do we feel about that? What about these people that the kids, they don't want these kids? What are they doing? Are we doing more of an injustice by having them live?
I'll give you a German term. I'll give it in English. Life unworthy of life. Okay, if you look at what happened in the, actually this book was written in the 20s and it was implemented in the 30s in Germany. Essentially, it said the same thing about the mentally retarded, the physically handicapped, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Gee, they're suffering. It's better they don't live. Okay, so it's the same thing with this kind of a thing. With a baby that's conceived and someone says, oh, they're going to come into poverty, they're going to come into this or come into that. Actually, if you look at what this is what Don was talking about. This is people trying to play God. Since they don't believe in God, there has to be a God someplace. So they've made themselves gods.
What I say, Don and Frank, what I'm saying is these are people that are spitting in God's face. They are literally spitting in God's face when you see what they want to do in this country. When the Democratic platform says they want to take God out of their platform, and then by fear they throw it back in, and he's booed 3 times, and they want to support Planned Parenthood that promotes abortions, and possibly, if President Obama is reelected, we'll possibly see partial birth abortion going in there. I just don't know, and I can't understand it. Folks,
can I say something real quick?
Yeah.
I think it was Dostoevsky that said it, without God, all things are possible or permissible.
Yeah. Doctor, thanks a million for coming on the show. Don, it's always a pleasure. Folks, 24/7, I welcome the opposing viewpoints. Believe me, I do. You come here on this show and tell our viewers why you think abortions should be happening and why we should be killing babies. And I know they hate to hear that word, killing babies. And women, please check your health care. And it's not health care for you. It's really doing you a lot of damage. I would just wonder how many millions out there are suffering psychological damages as they get older because they had their babies aborted, like he said, ripped apart. This is America, folks. This is America. Are we insane or what? 24/7 SSPTV.com. My email, sam@ssptv.com. And I know I'm going to get an email from my radical, wacko left-winger who says abortions are great. I'm looking forward to that. So don't forget, email me, and we'll exchange a couple of nice emails. We'll see you next time.